Welcome, I'm your host, Christina Haskin, and tonight I'm delighted to have a wonderful artist and author, Sathya Ramavataram. And she's joined us tonight to talk about her first book. Welcome.
Thank you.
One of your paintings is an act of creation. Can you talk about that one?
Which one?
Of the creation of birth and
spirit and matter. Yes, that was from a book on theosophy, the theosophical thought, in which they describe how consciousness, when it decided to become many, it first, that purge of the thought that it should become many, it moved in 3 different directions and manifested as will, wisdom, and activity. The whole universe is based on these will, wisdom, and activity. And so that was the first manifestation of spirit. And when spirit took these 3 steps, matter reacted. And matter reacted in 3 different ways: inertia, action, and inert observance of what is happening. So these 3 things, so this mutual movement of spirit and matter is what created the universe.
So in your scientific background, that must be...
So this would be, this as a mandala would be represented as a triangle with its apex pointing up is the movement of the spirit, and a triangle with its apex down is the movement of matter. And that gives you immediately the Star of David.
Ah.
You see? So this is the kind of connections that I was able to make.
And they're ancient.
Yes.
What's interesting to me is how symbols and stuff are so ancient, and they're passed down and passed down and passed down.
From one,
and yet you don't even know that you're
And there is a
them.
common thread in these symbols between all the traditions. And this is what also he has drawn my attention to.
Do you have one for love? A mandala that's kind of, well, all of them are about that.
The mandala that I have.
A specific one.
Yes, that how does one experience this love? Is we experience love in many relationships in our ordinary life, but the love that we experience with the divine is the pure unconditional love. And that is only experienced by us when we are working through our causal body. So we have basically 5 bodies. We have the body of the physical body that we see, which is perceptible. Then we have what is called a subtle body, which is made up of the body of prana, the body of the mind, and of the intellect.
And what's prana? Prana is the life energy?
Prana is the life breath, yeah. And then we have the causal body, which is a pure spiritual body. So only when we learn to live in the spiritual body is when we can make that contact with the divine and experience that. So in our normal life, we go through these 3 states. The physical body is the wakeful state, when we are fully aware of the physical body and everything that's going on around us. Then in the dream state, we are in touch with our subtle body, when the body and the senses are at rest, but the mind is still active, and it creates a little world of its own based on some experiences of this life and in our belief from past lives. And so we live in the dream world in the subtle body. And in the deep sleep state, we are in touch with the causal body. Our awareness is in the causal body.
Now, when you use the word causal, meaning that's the impetus.
That is the spiritual body. Yeah. So there is one. So there is a whole text which discusses these, and I have done some artwork based on that. And coming back to your question, there is one mandala where I show the merger of the individual consciousness with the divine consciousness, the supreme consciousness. And in the Hindu tradition, the divine is represented as the male, and the individual is represented as the female.
Ah.
And so this is shown as the union of the male and the female.
Because there was something about that originally they weren't separate and now they are separate.
Yes.
Have you heard that one?
Yes, the underlying unity, because the consciousness is the same. It's just that the embodiment is different. Each one of us has the same consciousness, but it's embodied in a different body, physical and subtle body.
And since you've done all these paintings and done all this spiritual study, how do you feel that has changed you or has helped you in some way?
It has been, at this point, I would say I've just understood and learned. Putting it into practice is what I'm trying to do now. That's the hard part of it.
Right, I know. Would you say meditation is one of the avenues?
Meditation is one of them, but in my case, I do not meditate, in the technical sense. My spiritual effort, or if you would like to call it that, is to be in touch with my teacher. My mind, my consciousness is very much in touch with him.
And he's like a divine presence for you.
Yeah, I feel his presence, and I feel I still sort of go off the track, but I realize that that's not where I should be. I may lose my temper with somebody, or I may do something that I should not be doing, but the moment I do it, I'm aware that I should not have done that.
Well, I think that's when you get, it's sort of the same thing in meditation, when you get to a very peaceful state where you know you're in touch with the spiritual thing, it has a special feeling, and when you go off with the everyday world thoughts,
yes, everyday,
you get pulled into this anxious space, but then you can come back to that space. So would you say that doing all this stuff has given you that space,
yes,
that you know it, and that
yes,
you're not always there, but you still
yes,
know it?
Yes, I know it.
That's a great gift.
Yeah, that is the knowing. The knowing part is a very important step on the spiritual journey. To be aware of it. It's like learning anything else, It's the same thing.
And as you practice doing more, you're continuing to do it every week. Are you still doing more, even though you've done the book? You continue the painting, right?
Yes, I still continue to work on it.
And how many hours a week do you?
I work about 3 hours a week on that week, on the real artwork. It is the studying, the study of the scriptures takes up a lot of time, but I find it very rewarding.
And you're continuing to study. It's a lifelong pursuit.
It is.
Do you feel that you've influenced your friends and other people with this?
I don't deliberately look for that. If anybody wants to shows an interest, I'm willing to share it with them. But I don't feel that it's for me to go and tell.
Right. Yeah.
To advertise or to talk about this, and I feel that if it's my teacher who will decide who needs this information and who is seeking it. I don't have to go looking for people to teach them,
Right, it will just happen when people come to you as a person to influence them.
Yes.
And how do you want to continue doing more books, or is this, how
I don't think I would want to do a book as such, but what I'm doing is whatever I have learned after finishing this book, I'm keeping notes on that, and I've done the artwork, and I'm hoping that maybe my granddaughters who are also interested in these topics would take it up at some other time, but I myself may not want to publish another book.
Yeah.
It's takes up too much of one's time.
In your body of work, what would you say is one of your favorites? Well, we have the last few minutes of the show.
My favorite one is the one with the two birds on a tree. And this is again a text which these texts, they're called the Upanishads, and they all are dealing with the same subject of self-realization. And in this particular text called the Svetashvatara Upanishad, again a student goes to a teacher and he wants to know how he can proceed on this journey of self-realization. And the teacher starts off explaining to him all about the Supreme Brahman, the transcendental consciousness, and so on. And soon he realizes that his student is not grasping any of this. So he has to, he feels that he has to somehow explain the ideas in a much more simpler way. So he brings this metaphor of the two birds sitting on the same branch, identical birds sitting on the same branch on the tree. One is enjoying all the fruits of the tree, the bitter and the sweet, going through happiness and sorrow, depending on how the taste of the fruit is. And the other is just a witness. Now, this bird at some point takes off, or flies off, and comes across the sun of knowledge. And then it comes back and recognizes the other bird and sits in company with it. So this is how he explains the journey towards self-realization.
That's beautiful.
So this is one of my favorite pictures. And I had a very difficult time of how to put this concept into a picture. And the idea came to me in a dream of how I can do it.
Oh, how beautiful.
So that's how that mandala came about.
It's really a special one.
Yeah, that's my special one.
Well, we've almost run out of time, so I thank you for coming, and I love all your paintings, and it's a wonderful thing that you're sharing, but not only the artwork, it's the knowledge and the giving people the chance to start. I mean, I'm just sitting here with you tonight, I feel shifted a little bit, you know. It's this gentleness of what you're saying that affects, it's coming through, this spirit you were talking about comes through even right now. So thank you, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure being here.
Good night, and take a look at this wonderful book, and you'll go into another world of deep spiritual and artistic journey. Good night. See you next time.